breakfast and lunch at the bakery, and its specialty is it's gluten free. That's what it is. It's a gluten free bakery. It's vegetarian, and Maryland received the 2013 annual Jersey Choice Critics Pick Award for a vegetarian restaurant. Bravo, Maryland.
Yeah.
Thank you. And this gluten free bakery was a business decision that Marilyn made. It has become a labor of love. Her daughters have worked in her bakery, and she knows everything is going to be good for you, but she's very much into your loving what she produces. And from what I hear, people are loving it. So I'm going to let you take it away, Marilyn, in a minute, but I just want everyone to know, in case they didn't realize it, that the recipe for Marilyn's focaccia was included when the link was sent to you. So for some of you, you may want to bake along this evening. Others may want to watch and learn, and that's totally fine. There's a chat room for you to put your questions or comments into. We'll try to get to as many of them as we can. Um, we're happy to to receive them, and I just want to thank Helene and Lynn for working so hard and making all of this come together and for making it look easy. You guys are pros. And I also want to thank my mentor, Arlene Opatuk, for being such a great at ease moderator and for helping me through. So I wish everybody a good evening. And I think that's it. Marilyn, take it away.
Thank you very much, Carol. And thanks for inviting me to make focaccia with you and show you about gluten-free baking. So as we were saying, I have included the recipe. I don't know if very many of you are going to be baking along. And but if you want to bake along, it's totally doable. It's a very short process. And so, get your dry ingredients together and your wet ingredients together, and we can start. So, so the recipe says to use Bob's Red Mill 1-to-1 baking flour, and also in the notes I said what you can use any baking flour, gluten-free baking flour that has xanthan gum in it. The xanthan gum is the ingredient that mimics gluten. It allows the dough to come together, and it just makes, well, you need it for bread and you need it for some other kinds of baking. So the King Arthur brand and the Cup for Cup brand and the, so all these are good. They all have the xanthan gum. And so this one is this time I'm making it with the King Arthur, and it's really nice. I like it very much. So I combined the baking flour, the salt, and the yeast in the dry. And here I have the cider vinegar, the egg whites, the agave, and I'm going to put the warm water and the olive oil in, and then we'll mix it up. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Marilyn, some people are already asking about what items would be on your menu at your restaurant.
What items would be what?
On your menu at the restaurant?
Well, we have
Just
extensive. If you go to our website, you can see our online menu, and you can order online and do contactless pickup. We do all kinds of cakes, pizzas. We make our own noodles. For Rosh Hashanah, we made kugel. Um,
Marilyn,
make
I'm going to interrupt for 1 second. I am the host and I don't know how to mute everybody. So I'll figure that out for next time. But for now, could everyone other than Carol and Marilyn mute themselves? And then if you have a question, just go into the chat box. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to, I hope this isn't too loud. I'm going to add the wet ingredients to the dry right now. Okay.
Marilyn,
Yeah, I'm mixing on medium high.
is there a substitute for the agave?
Is it too loud?
No.
No, I was just wondering, somebody asked if there was a substitute. If they don't have agave, is there a substitute for agave?
Oh yeah, sure. Any sweetener. So if you have honey, or if you, it's a liquid ingredient. So that's why I'm using agave or honey or maple syrup or any kind of something sugary. The sugar is going to give color to the bread. You know, so you always need to put a little bit of sugar in with your baking to make a nice color on the outside. If you forget sugar, you won't get a nice color. I've done that before.
And people are also asking about the type of yeast.
Yeah, so I'm using instant yeast. I buy it in a large quantity. So I can just pour it in, but they sell it in a package, Fleischmann's, and the measurement here is 2 packets of yeast.
Would you use about the same amount of sweetener as you would of the agave if you were?
Yes, because it's really a small amount of sweetener. It's 1 tablespoon, and so you can just add a tablespoon of the sweetener.
Okay.
Whatever you're gonna do. Yeah.
Thank you, Marilyn.
Yeah, sure. I don't know why.
Marilyn, you don't sell challah, do you, at the bakery? Do you sell challah?
Yeah, we make challah. People who are used to a really light, wonderful, pillowy kind of challah. The gluten-free is more dense. It's a denser challah, but it's really pretty. We make it in a form like this. So it comes out looking like a braided challah. But as this kind of flour, this kind of batter, like I was saying, is very loose. So you can't really braid it. You can't treat it the same way as you would a non-gluten, a gluten kind of dough. So you need a form. It's a form. Right. Forgot the too.
And how long will we mix this?
So you keep mixing for about 4 or 5 minutes. It helps for the flour to absorb the liquid, because you're not going to be. It's not the same as wheat flour, so it needs more coaxing to absorb the liquids. And I forgot to add the olive oil. That's why I'm throwing it in now. All right, and now I'm going to turn on the oven.
Marilyn?
I'm setting it to, so in the instructions it said set it to 375, but I prefer setting it to 390 or 400, depending on how your oven is. It's a really relative kind of thing, and you just have to know your oven and you have to know your recipe. But so so one of the reasons that I changed the temperature and is that we're cooking now in the fall, and it's not as warm as in the summer when I was testing these recipes, and it just needs time and temperature work together. So I'm keeping the same time and I'm raising the temperature. I'm also adding more liquid because it needs a little bit more, and in my opinion, and also because in the summer when it's really humid, then you don't need as much liquid um, to bring the dough together. And now I find that it needs a little more liquid. So in the recipe, I added a 1/4 cup more of water, and I raised the temperature to 390. So if you want to make those adjustments on the recipe, please do so. So I'll show you the batter. The batter is a little bit, it's not flowing like, cake batter. It's maybe more like a cookie batter, or I don't know, but it's not something that you could shape like a challah or something like that. So it's done mixing. Now I'm going to spray my pan. So I mentioned that you could use any kind of pan. I'm using 2 cake pans, and I'm going to split the batter in 2. If you have a larger, if you have a Pyrex, like an 11 by 17 or whatever they are, then you could probably fit the whole thing in one. And I'm going to spray the inside, so that it doesn't stick.
Marilyn, quick question.
Yeah.
If somebody has a gluten-free flour that has guar gum in it, but not the xanthan gum, is that a suitable, substitute?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, great to know.
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah. Guar gum is the same. I in all of these flours, it's xanthan gum. So if you have guar gum and you prefer it, I know some people are sensitive to xanthan gum, and they prefer working with the guar gum. Then that works the same way. It just does exactly the same thing. I use xanthan gum, and there is xanthan gum in these blends. So, okay, so I just put the batter in the two cake forms that I have, and I'm just going to spread them out to the edges, and it'll be about an inch deep. Like there'll be about an inch of batter in here, and so I'm just spreading it out.
Did you put anything in those cake pans to stop from sticking?
Yeah, I sprayed them with this.
Oh, you did? Okay.
I just sprayed them, yeah.
I missed that, sorry.
That's okay. Yes, I sprayed them so that they wouldn't stick. You could put olive oil in there since we're using olive oil. Makes sense.
Yeah.
So I spread it out. Now I'm going to put olive oil on the top. So I'm just putting a little bit in each of them, probably like 2 tablespoons or something like that. And then I'm going to just move it around and cover everything. All the oil is going to be covering the surface. And then after it's all distributed properly over the surface, now I'm going to dimple. So just like using my fingers, I'm just dimpling the surface so that the oil will pool in the little crevices. I don't know, can you see?
Yes.
So I'm just gonna do that. And that, and you know, just the oil, it's really nice because it's sort of fries a little bit. The oil gets hot and it gives a nice crust, and where it's pooled, it really does, it's not oily at the end of the whole baking. It's not oily. It gets absorbed, but it's really nice. And then I use, you can tell. I'm going to put some kosher salt on top. And if you want to be fancy, like if you want to decorate the top, I put some, you know, suggestions for decorating. I made one today, and I decorated with red pepper and mushrooms and olives, just to make a design.
Lovely. Mm-hmm.
And this one, I made this one too. This one with nothing except for a slice taken out because I had to taste it, make sure it was good. I can show you also like the crumb. It's pretty close. It's a close crumb, but it's really nice. Like if you cut slices and you dip it in olive oil, it will absorb and it will be really nice. You can reheat it. Thank you so much. So with the kosher salt, I'm just going to take some in my hand and sprinkle it on the top. And should we decorate one?
Yes, for sure.
Okay, so I have some things to decorate with here. I have mushrooms, tomatoes, and I have olives and some scallions that I cut up. So it'll make a nice design. And I also have some capers. So these are little salt bombs. These are really good. Along with the olives, they just make a nice salty
Marilyn, if you use
addition.
kosher salt versus coarse salt or sea salt, would there be a difference?
So I think kosher salt is coarse salt. It's coarse. You can get, that's what I mean when I say kosher salt, I mean coarse, a coarse salt. Can you see that? It says
Okay.
coarse there. You can get kosher salt that's not coarse, but I meant coarse. I think when people say sometimes when people say kosher salt, that's what they mean. Like it's got to be a coarse salt. And yeah, so I'm going to decorate one of them with some green onion, and I'll just like make a little decoration with olives, just like placing them. And you could be really artistic about it to make it look really pretty. I like these mushrooms. So these are shiitake mushrooms.
Marilyn, is there any way to angle the camera a little bit more over the two cake pans?
Yes.
Oh, great.
Martine, can you bring the camera so that we can see the pans?
Oh, wonderful.
Okay, so I'm just putting some little decorations in here. So one of the things that you'll find if you're decorating, like with vegetables, is that the dough is not going to rise as much because there is liquid that it's absorbing in the baking. So so for example, This one rose in on the edge because there wasn't, all the ingredients on the edge, but in the middle, it didn't rise as much because there was more liquid, there was more moisture. This one rose more evenly. There's not as much of a indent in the middle. So now I'm going to make a kind of improvised proof box, and you could do that at home, okay? If you want to proof, I'm just putting hot water in a sink, and I'm going to put these like a bath, give them a little, they're sitting in a hot water bath, but no water is getting into. And if you want to make a proof box at home, and you have a microwave, then you just put some water in a quart container or a bowl, fill it up with water, put it in the microwave for a couple of minutes so it gets hot and it boils. Then without the microwave on, then you put your dough in there with the hot water, and it creates a sort of steamy environment for the dough to rise. And that's a improvised proof box.
Okay.
Yeah. Just, you just want to find a warm and moist place for the dough to do its rising.
Marilyn, someone's asking if you are using, and I believe you answered this before the program started, if you are using a flour that, let's see, do you find gluten-free flours, do they mimic white flours? And can you use 1-to-1 with the proportion that you're giving us in this recipe? I think you earlier said you cannot. Is that correct?
Well, yeah, so these, okay, so I'm not sure, is the question about the gluten-free flours or is the question about regular flour?
You substitute a regular flour.
So that's what these things are marketed for.
Mm-hmm.
They say, measure for measure. Basically, they're saying use this instead of wheat flour. Instead of all-purpose, this is an all-purpose gluten-free, but it doesn't work for everything as in the same way. It's and they have on the back, they have recipes that they offer, and I'm sure King Arthur, if you go on their website, will have a lot of recipes for this particular kind of flour blend.
Mm-hmm.
So here we make our own blends, and we have a bread flour blend and something we use for cookies and something we use for cakes, and so they're different. Like our bagels are different from our other bread. We'd use a different flour blend. So, but I think for the home cook, if you want to make some cookies or if you want to make pie dough or something like that, you can use these blends. And so, for example, but the ingredients may be different. So I would say go on their website and try and find their recipes, because they do have recipes for various things like a pie crust or a cake or things like that. For example, the focaccia recipe that we're doing now uses egg whites, and that's something that you wouldn't find in a recipe for focaccia using all-purpose flour or using a high gluten flour. And the reason is it adds protein. It adds protein to the blend, to the mix, which you might not need if you're using all-purpose flour or a high gluten flour for bread making. So that's different. So I gave them a few minutes to proof, and you could let them proof longer. I don't think we need to proof them that much longer. So I'm going to put them in the oven. They haven't changed all that much, but they have changed a little bit. Thanks, Martine. Okay, and so I'm going to put it in the oven. And now all we have to do is wait 20 minutes, 20, 25 minutes, and they're done. So I guess now we can talk about whatever you want to talk about.
Well, I was just asking, everyone if they have more questions here. I asked a few people. If anyone has a question, feel free, put it in the chat room. We're trying to answer them as they come in. But I think, Marilyn, you've answered most of them. I think we're doing really well. So you have the oven at 390. How long did you say we're going to bake these focaccia breads for?
Yeah, 20 to 25 minutes. I think that, so it's a pretty fast process if you think about relative to, bread making with all-purpose flour or any kind of wheat flour. You don't have to create gluten. You don't have to bring the gluten. You don't have to like make the stretchy strands and do the folds and all that. It's a much more direct, but probably less forgiving kind of process.
If someone doesn't have a stand mixer or a hand mixer that's powerful, how would you recommend that this be mixed?
So I would just, with a spatula or a spoon, wooden spoon, like I have a bowl with handles. That helps, and you just put it in the crook of your arm, and if you really develop some muscles, and it's just like you just got to keep going and going and going and going and going, and but that's something that you can do, no problem. Or if you have hand beater, like if you have a portable, like the kind with the two beaters, and an electric beater. An electric beater, you could use that. It might get a little heavy, like the batter will be a little heavier. So you might probably prefer to go by hand.
Okay. And Marilyn, tell us a little bit about your journey. You went to a culinary institute. Was that in France?
Oh, I wish. No, it was in New York, in the French Culinary Institute. I think now it's called the International Culinary Center, and they changed the name. But they were offering a restaurant management course. So whereas, I know how to bake, I know how to cook, I didn't know how to run a business. So that's what, that's what they taught me there, was how to run a business, all the things that you have to think about, like payroll, like insurance, like permits, like making a business plan. So I learned all that. It was a whole season of Saturdays, and it was great. It was really worthwhile process, and I'm still learning. It's like it's a very engaging process to be in a business.
Right, I
Yeah.
imagine you're always learning. If someone wants to special order a birthday cake, is that also done in your bakery?
Yes, we specialize in all kinds of special orders. So we do birthday cakes, wedding cakes. We do special occasion like cupcakes. We do pies. We do also savory. So we have a really nice menu for Thanksgiving. Some extra catering dishes that we're making, like we're doing cornbread stuffing, gluten-free cornbread stuffing. A lot of people who, well, I don't know about this year, but in years past, when people have been able to get together for, these kinds of celebrations, there might have been one or two people at the table who needed a gluten-free dish. And so, having stuffing that was gluten-free was really, a great thing to add to the table, and a great way of including people in the, to share food when you have restrictions.
Okay, and I know we didn't mention this, but for anybody who's wondering why gluten-free, it's people who have celiac disease who need to stay away from the wheat and the barley and the rye that are the reasons people get, sick from those kinds of grains, you know.
Right.
So that's helpful for people to know. Do you find that people who come into your bakery cafe do have celiac, or are they coming in because they want something different and they want gluten free?
Well, both. But sometimes most of the people, like, I know a lot of our customers very well by now. And sometimes there's only one member of the family that has celiac who, and they want to be inclusive. And so they want to be able to have a birthday cake that everybody can share, or they want to have, you know, great pizza night, pizza night for everybody. So even if there's only one, or if there's, maybe even some gluten sensitivity, it's not necessarily, you don't have to be a celiac. You can have any other kind of dietary restriction because of inflammation. A lot of people have inflammation, and they cut gluten out, and they find that they're much better. So, I'm not in the health care business, but I'm in the, food business, and I like to be able to give people ways to include people at the table.
That's wonderful. You said you had opened in September, and has the pandemic caused a real difference in your business? Have you noticed it?
Well, yeah. So we changed things around in the cafe because we knew that, we wouldn't have people eating at tables. So we changed the space around. We are trying um, to wholesale some of our products in other stores. So we have enlarged the kitchen area so that we can do more packaging and more prep work. And then the seating area now is our retail shop.
I see.
So we've changed things around, and we've also emphasized more to go. Obviously, we're not serving anything, so we have a lot of to go orders, and we have frozen foods that people can stock in their freezers for, for the whole week. We make lasagnas and quiches and pizzas and mac and cheese. So, you can, and like Roz was saying, we do bake at home things. So we have cookie dough, and we have cinnamon buns that people can make. And we have the favorite of a lot of our customers is Brazilian cheese puffs. So we have those that people can make at home now too. We just keep them frozen.
That's good, because somebody was asking, what are the most popular items in your, bakery cafe? So
Yeah, bagels are really because bagels are hard to come by, like really good, freshly made bagels, gluten-free, very hard to come by. And people really love them. So we've been able to get those out a lot, and we're trying to get them into bagel shops locally. We have a couple of customers that are buying for their shops now.
if someone wanted to incorporate flavor into this focaccia recipe, if they wanted to put like a tomato paste in, or they wanted to put onions inside, how would they go ahead and do that?
Well, if you put something in the dough, um, I think you have to be a little more careful about proofing and baking, because and because there's going to be some liquid, and it'll just change the proportions. So You probably want to bake at a higher temperature and for a shorter amount of time. So if you have, like, if you're putting onions in the dough, or if you're putting tomato paste in there, you should up the temperature and shorten the time, I think.
What if you didn't want to do savory? What if you wanted to do like a dessert focaccia and put some chocolate or some, raisins or some sweets in it? Would that work?
I think I think that you could put them on at the end. If you wanted to put like a chocolate drizzle over after it's baked, I think that would be better, because it would just make a nice fresh topping to it.
Can you recommend any other sweet toppings?
Yeah, so if you wanted to put some grapes, or if you wanted to, put maybe some orange slices, or I don't know, if you want to bake with that, but it's, the texture is going to change. It's going to become dry. It's going to become drier. So I would say use jam or something at the end. If you just want to have something sweet, just slice it and put some jam on it, or as opposed to baking it with it. I think it would change the texture.
And do you have to use yeast in this recipe? If someone had a problem consuming yeast, would there be another way?
There are ways, but I don't know how I would go about doing that. There are sourdoughs that people cultivate and use instead of yeast. And I don't know how that would work with this particular recipe. I think you'd have to do a little more research, and you'd have to come up with a better way of going about that.
And if somebody was a diabetic and they went to your shop, would there be sugar-free items that they could purchase?
So our pastries are made with sugar. We have one cookie that's made with honey. I don't know if that helps with the diabetic diet, but we use sugar. We don't use sugar substitute. It just would change the whole composition of the dough and things like that. So we don't do that.
Marilyn, your fan club wants to know if you would consider coming back to do a bagel or bialy demo.
Of course.
Ah,
Thanks. I make really cool bagels. The way that we make the bagels here is pretty interesting. Yeah. It's a multi-step process, and it involves freezing. So I could give you like some demo and some before and after, but the whole process is a little long. But it's
I'm
fun.
hearing from people that your bagels are outrageous.
Yeah, thanks. They are. They're really good. And so I'm from Montreal, you know that. And Montreal bagels are very different from New York bagels. New York bagels are big and puffy, and Montreal bagels are much more dense, and they're boiled in honey water, and they have, so they're really nice for us Montrealers. There's nothing better than a Montreal bagel. When I drive.
You're from Brooklyn.
If you're from Brooklyn, what can I say? I don't know. I don't know what that's all about. But when I go to Montreal, I come back with a trunk load of bagels because they're just so good.
Can you use a convection oven instead of a normal oven? You'd have to change the settings, I imagine?
Actually, this is a convection oven, what I'm using here. The difference between a convection oven and a regular oven, the convection makes the heat circulate. There's fans in there, and it allows the heat to circulate, and generally you'll bake faster either you can lower the temperature or you can lower the time that's between a convection oven and a regular oven. It's just hotter and faster. So
And what would you say the biggest difference, someone wants to know, between the bagels that are here versus the bagels in Montreal? What's the biggest taste difference?
well, the difference between the bagels is they're very different. They're Montreal bagels, or these bagels that I make here. They're not as airy. They're not as airy, and they're smaller. They're not as soft. They're just denser and chewier. Yeah. Well, are they chewy? They're different chewy. They're different chewy.
And in the convection oven, you have to adjust the time, I imagine, since it's hotter, and I believe convection browns a little more. Is that correct?
Well, so a convection is there's a fan that's operating in there, and so yeah, I think that if you're baking in a regular oven, you should raise the temperature, and you know, that will account for the air that's going around, that's helping the process go faster. Or you should just keep the temperature and keep it in longer if you're working without a convection.
Great, great.
Is that 20 minutes or 25?
Do you make gluten-free pita in your bakery?
Pita?
Pita?
Yeah. Yes, we don't have it on our menu. It's the same kind of recipe that we use for our flatbread, but it's baked at a higher temperature. And you know, we try. We're not the experts at making pita. You want the pocket in a pita, and you know, we can approximate, but we stick with flatbread. And we use our flatbreads for pizzas, and for, you know, dipping. We could cut them in triangles and use them for dips, just the same way as you would for a pita, but not for a pita sandwich. It's not the same.
And the focaccia that you're making, you would suggest that as you would eat a normal bread, or would you serve it more with soup, or could you cut it in the middle and stuff it with tuna fish for lunch? How would you
Yeah,
like?
actually, so the focaccia that we make is, hold on just a sec. We're gonna let it go for another 5 minutes. The focaccia that we make panini sandwiches, and we make our focaccia in a half sheet pan, and we cut it into 8, and then split it in half and fill it, and then put it in the panini press. So yes, it's a sandwich. It's kind of sandwich bread that we use.
Sounds great. Sounds really good.
Yeah, it's good.
Let's see if there's any other questions.
And this one, you know, the one that we're making tonight is something that's, you know, that you would just make quickly to have for dinner, I think. I mean, I think it would be a good bread to have with your soup, or you could dip it. It's a really nice, plain, flavorful bread.
Carly wants to know, her recipe, she says, uses one pan. Is that okay to make that in one pan?
Yeah, why not? So I was saying that I have smaller pans, so I'm making 2. And then I figure I could make one that's decorated and one that's not. If you have a larger pan, then put all the batter in one pan. And you might get a thicker result, and you might have to bake it longer. So you just have to go by, you know, your judgment. Yeah, I just looked at what we have here. I think it needs a few more minutes. So I'll show you what we have already.
Okay.
Can I use it?
If somebody wants to order takeout from your place, do they order it online or should they be calling in? What would be the best way to do takeout?
So you could call in, you could come in and place your order. It usually takes, 15 minutes for an order to be made, 15 to 20 minutes. So if you have 15 to 20 minutes and you want to, put in an order and stay to pick it up, that's one thing. Or if you want to order in the morning and say you're coming at noon, that's something else. Or you can order online and you can order through Grubhub. You can order a week in advance online or call us.
And if we choose to come in and eat something, are there tables outside or is there spacing inside? So
Yes, there's only the tables outside. We're not serving in the cafe.
Okay.
So this is I can't hear. Can you tilt the thing? Can you just tilt that? All right. Martine, my technical assistant, is helping me here. I just have to,
Yes,
can you
that's
see
a
it?
good view. That's a good view. Mhm.
Yeah. So I think it's fine. It's softer in the middle, but it looks good.
Is that
I think it's
rosemary?
ready.
Is that rosemary on top of there?
I put scallions.
Oh, that's scallions. That's the scallions.
Yeah, they sort of burnt a little bit. There's the
They look good.
mushrooms. There are mushrooms, tomatoes, capers, and olives.
Zoom has its limitations. We can't taste it, can we?
You can't taste it right now. But here, let's see this one. So like we were saying, like the olive oil becomes absorbed in the, well, you can put more olive oil on it. I would like to put a little more olive oil on to shine it up a little bit.
Mhm.
So
By
do
all
that.
means, it's your bakery.
Yeah. So so that's all. It's all done. We baked together and it's all out. It's all done. Isn't that great?
Yeah, it's wonderful. Does anyone
We
have
did.
any more questions for the chat room? Anybody? I don't see any. I don't see any. Marilyn, is there
Yes.
anything you'd like to tell us about your shop that we haven't asked you?
Well, I'm so
Ooh.
I think that you've asked some great questions. Please check out our website and our menu online.
You want to give us that website?
Yes. So it's Wildflower, WILDFLOUR, bakery-cafe.com. And we have, I just actually posted, I added this focaccia to our bread menu, to our online bread menu. So I took a picture of the one I made today and I put it on there so people can order it. I already got an inquiry about can we mail them? Yeah, we're going to be able to mail these beautiful breads. We're going to do that. So we do mail order too. And takeout, we deliver on Tuesdays and Fridays.
Wow.
To like our sort of within a certain radius.
Mhm.
And like with a minimum order. And so we're there, we're here, we're happy to see you whenever you come in, and or any kind of questions you have, you can email us through our website. There's a contact us, and I'll be happy to answer any questions, or see if we can fulfill any requests.
Well,
Special
Marilyn,
requests.
you did a wonderful job this evening, and I know I enjoyed the program. We appreciate your time. We do want to have you come back. And we also want to say thank you to everyone who registered for this program. It's a marvelous way to spend a Monday night, and we are learning and enjoying at the same time. Thank you very much. Does anybody have any more questions in the chat room? Apparently you're an artist too. Somebody is mentioning that you've done sculpting work in Montreal. You want to just tell us real quick what that's about?
Oh, yeah, I'm a potter. I love to work with clay. So, and I have a studio at home,
Oh, how nice.
and so I make all kinds of dinnerware for my house, for my friends, and for my family.
That's great.
Yeah,
Great.
it's
Is that for sale at all?
no, no, I don't get that much time in, and that's a really long process. You know, forming all the things and then drying and then, you know, bisquing and glazing and all. It's a really long process.
Hmm.
So I do it for my own enjoyment.
Well, thank you again on behalf of everyone who enjoyed the evening. Thank you again, Marilyn. You were wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you very much for inviting me, and thanks for tuning in.
All right, before we leave, I just want to thank, first of all, Marilyn, thank you so much for coming and doing this.
Can I just
really
ask a question? Marilyn, what days and what hours are you open?
Well, we're open Tuesday through Friday from 8 to 3 and Saturday from 8 to 2. And we're closed Sundays and Mondays. Thanks for asking.
Glad you get a weekend.
Okay, and one more quick
Yeah.
comment. I did put your bakery website on the chat to everyone so they can see.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Well,
Wonderful.
thank you again, Marilyn, and thank you to you, Carol, for moderating this. We really appreciate it.
Pleasure.
Just a couple of coming attractions. So Thursday evening, there'll be a program with Myra Weiner, who will be discussing her book. And then next Monday night, Jay Schnitzer, who is the baker of Abba's Bakery, is going to be doing black and white, New York style black and white cookies. So that email will be coming out soon. And if you have ideas for additional programming, please get in touch with me or Lynn. And we look forward to continuing to see you while many of us are at home. So thank you again and have a good night.
Thanks. Thank you very
everyone.
much.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Let me get out of here.